alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm your host, Tim Niederreiter, your very tired host, who has been exhausted by too many late nights this week. But hey, it's all good because we're on the podcast. It's a new week. I mean, I guess to be fair, because the podcast drops on Sunday. But hey, that's the magic of podcasting. And with me today is a new guest to the show, a science fiction author, David M. Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you. Always good to meet new people on the internet or off the internet. I mean, not always good to meet new people off the internet, frankly. Sometimes that can be creepy. But hey, online, it's all good. No problems
Absolutely.
here. Yeah. So, what I said to the audience you write science fiction, but what sort of science fiction do you write? What kind of books do you have out there?
At the moment, I've got three different series out. The first one, which was the first set of books I started writing, the Joe Ballen series, is a fast-paced action adventure. Kind of lots of mystery and a bit of a noir theme to it. The second series I've got out is the Logan's World series, which is the one that I'm currently working on. That one is a spin-off of the Joe Ballen series with one of the characters from the original Joe Ballen books, but now he's the central focus of it. And the third series I've got is a sci-fi comedy with a septopoid who by day is a pro wrestler and by night is an intergalactic jewel thief.
That sounds great. I mean, it all sounds like fun, but that one sounds exceptionally silly and cool.
It is exceptionally silly.
A jewel thief. And you said, what did you say he was, a septopoid?
Yep, she's descended from like these septopoids, which are kind of octopus-like creatures, and she has a head like a Medusa.
You know, I do like my tentacles. I do enjoy tentacles in my fiction.
Yeah, there's plenty of tentacles in that one.
I can imagine. But yeah, so do you kind of bounce around between these three, or are you just go to finish one and then you go on to the next one and so on?
The first series, the Joe Ballen series, those were kind of written pretty much just in sequence, except for the last one, because I kind of write those series, that and the Logan's World series, I write them kind of historically, sequentially. And so the first book of the Logan's World series, that actually was written just before I wrote the last book in the Joe Ballen series, because that's where it kind of fit in terms of my timeline. And now I've gone back to writing the second of the Logan's World books. The Hyperion Jones books, the Septopoid books, they're completely separate. They're just kind of silly and as and when sort of thing.
Okay, so they're not all in the same setting or universe.
No,
those two are separate settings. Yeah. And that's interesting to me. I love good world building. I love building my own worlds. I love reading good world building, and I'm interested. Do you ever have issues with separating the two settings, or do they have similar technology, or is it completely different?
It's completely different. The original books are very much grounded in realism. I tried to keep those very much sort of like with believable technology. There's kind of like no magic and that kind of hand wavy sort of thing in the first two series. The Hyperion Jones ones, that's kind of like just a free for all, go for it, completely as insane as whatever my brain comes up with, it just gets thrown in there.
Is Hitchhiker's Guide a decent comparison there as far as the kind of wackiness, or is it less extreme than that?
It's close in some parts. It's not quite as kind of crazy as the Hitchhiker's Guide, but some of it gets along that way. Yeah.
Yeah, my first experience with the Hitchhiker's Guide was the restaurant at the end of the universe, and the title kind of says it all with that book. It says like how this is insane. This is how insane this series is. Okay, then.
Yeah, the title of the first Hyperion Jones book is actually Hyperion Jones and the Olive Branch Caper.
Okay. A little less crazy apocalyptic about that.
It's less crazy, but even then, when you read it, it's like you think, "Hang on, that's kind of really bizarre." Yeah,
I bet.
Olives.
Olives, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they are very, very different styles of books. They both. I think they both got a strong component of humor in them. I like humor. It's just that the other ones, it's kind of a darker sort of humor, whereas the Hyperion one, it's just, as I say, it's kind of anywhere and anything goes.
Yeah. I mean, I have some experience with that myself, but anyway, in my own fiction, I do enjoy a good wild setting, but I tend to keep mine a little bit nailed down. Even the fantasy ones are like I can't quite do the, and then there are also aliens kind of thing, or whatever. I'm not saying that's what your books do, but that what or like a Marvel comic book universe. I don't generally go for that vibe. I try to be a little more consistent than that. So it's like okay, gotta keep it going. So it makes sense internally, and I'm sure yours does too. I just think but there's so many far-reaching things you can do when you're writing humor that I imagine don't really fly in dramatic or traditional science fiction.
Absolutely, and really, that was kind of the motivation for starting that particular book. It's like most of my other books are quite serious and. Although they have humor in them, they are actually quite serious in terms of their themes. And I find that I react to my own books emotionally quite a lot. And so after writing the third of the Joe Ballen books and the first of the Logan's World books, which were both very emotional kind of books. It's like I really needed something to kind of clear my palate, and I came up with this idea of this character who's, as I said, the sort of wrestler come jewel thief, and I just thought, yeah, I'm going to write that just to kind of do something completely different and give my brain a break from the kind of the more difficult stuff, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, how relentlessly grim can you be? I mean, I or just dramatic. How much drama can you take as a creator, even?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you get to a point where you start kind of hitting your own walls because how much worse can I make this guy's life? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it has occurred to me recently that one of my favorite things to do is make my characters go through hell. Yeah, I love doing that kind of thing. Yeah, but I can imagine it does. Not everyone's always going to want to be doing that. Like I kind of am.
I always like to kind of like put my characters through the ringer, but it's kind of. I think it's more kind of when I write the more serious books, I think I kind of internalize that emotion more. And so, as I said, the Hyperion book was kind of a nice kind of safety valve, I guess.
I understand. Yeah, that makes sense.
A little bit of steam,
Yep, gotta let it out somewhere, Too much tension, your balloon pops eventually. Got to release some of that.
Yeah.
So, in general, how do you approach actually, the craft of writing the book? Do you outline for starters? Do you come up with a lot of premise to begin with? How do you approach that?
I'm what I call a plantser. It's like I do a small amount of kind of like plotting up front, but it's very small. I usually kind of like have sort of the beginning, the opening kind of idea of where we are and what's going to happen. And I usually have a good solid idea of where I'm going to end up. And then I basically throw the characters in and let them find their own way through it. And so when I'm actually writing it, it's very much dynamic, and I get to the point where the characters will literally surprise the hell out of me, and I'm thinking, where did that come from?
No, yeah, surprised by your own characters. That's always fun. Unless, again, I can imagine situations where it'd be annoying, but it's always kind of fun at the very least. Yeah, because it's that surprise element of like, wait, you got away from me there. You're taking over. It's
sometimes they literally have minds of their own.
Yeah. Which is funny because because unless you write them, they're not going to be able to do anything. But when you write them, sometimes you do what they say. Basically, That makes sense. As much as it's an odd thing when any writer says it makes sense to us. We all know how that feels, I think.
Yeah, it does. It sounds very odd. I mean, sometimes like I'll tell my wife, I'll say, "Oh, I'm kind of like working on this, and kind of Joe suddenly decided to do such and such," and it's like, "What do you mean he decided?" It's like, I don't know. That's how it works. What can I say?
Yeah, and I find that if I don't get stuck into a story, it's harder for me to understand what the characters are going to do next. And then I just, if I'm trying to bounce around between multiple different stories, as I've been doing a lot lately, it's really tough to get into it because I'm like, oh wait, where were we here? What's going on? It's chaotic. It's kind of a frustrating experience actually. Like I've been writing these serials for Kindle Vella, and I was writing 10 at a time. Like I'd write a bunch. I'd write some in 10 different stories every week, and that was not sustainable. It was very difficult just to keep up with even one of those, even a couple chapters for each story a week. Very difficult.
I kind of hop between stories sometimes. Not to that level, but sometimes it's like if I come to a point in one of my books where I'm just not quite sure how to kind of like move next, I will sometimes write one of my other books just to kind of like take me away from it, and give like the kind of the unconscious, guys in the back room some time to figure out what it is that I actually want to do with the first book sort of thing. So I kind of like use it sometimes like that, but I don't think I could ever manage kind of like writing 10 or anything like that at the same time.
I couldn't do it for very long. I've pretty much given up trying to do that, but it was an interesting attempt. I kept it going for about 3 weeks, almost a month, something like that. I was pretty consistent about it, but it was just too difficult to keep it up. So I'm approaching my serials in a different fashion now. Because I had to be writing a novel at the same time, so that would have made 11 stories, and I never got around to writing the novel on any of those days. Let me put it that way. A little bit too much going on there. But anyway, so do you are these stories or are they far-flung science fiction? I mean, it sounds like squid octopus people in the future, probably pretty far future. I don't know, but yeah, how does that work out for the other series, especially?
Yeah, the Joe Ballen and Logan's World series, those are both near future sci-fi. Those are kind of set around the sort of 2150 time period.
Okay.
Whereas the Hyperion book is way distant. It's kind of
okay.
And it's not even sort of it's not even clear if it's kind of like the same universe or
It's gonna be a little bit of Star Wars going on there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of the kind of like it was a long time ago and far away. Kind of.
Could have been practically anywhere, but it's just not here. That's what we know for sure.
Yeah. Although there are humans in it, but they've lost.
Same with Star Wars, but hey, yeah.
Yeah, they've lost Earth, so they don't know where it is.
Yeah, Earth. One of those planets always seems to get lost eventually. If the series goes long enough, depending on.
Yeah.
It's where did you get it? It's not a set of car keys. Where'd you leave the thing? Well, it happens. So David, you have these science fiction series, but do you have any urge to write any other kinds of stories? I'm just curious. Or is it all science fiction?
I've got some like brief notes for several other books, which one day I will find time to write. Some of them, some of them are just basic kind of like thrillers, kind of, current time, nothing sort of futuristic or anything. And I also have an idea which several people keep bugging me to write, and I keep sort of trying to resist the urge, and that is a dragon series. A dragon novel. I'm not sure it would be a series, but certainly a dragon novel.
So fantasy, or is that something else? I can imagine it being, because obviously there's Dragon Riders of Purr, and Anne McCaffrey kind of mixed it up there, kind of for sci-fi and fantasy at the same time in that one case, at least.
Yeah, it would be, in a way, it would be kind of like an alternate history thing, but with dragons in it, and it wouldn't be kind of like an Anne McCaffrey Pern type thing where it's like these dragons are actually kind of aliens. It's kind of classical dragons, but it's kind of like told as almost a different alternate history of their life on Earth, kind of thing.
Cool.
And like their first meeting with humans and so on.
Neat. Yeah, I'll look forward to seeing that if you manage to find the time to write it. So, go on.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say it's something that several people I know who I've mentioned it to have said, you really need to write that. And I was like, I know, but I like sci-fi better.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, you gotta, and sometimes you gotta stick to your guns,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In some cases, your ray guns. In some cases, your ray guns.
Yeah. I've got too many books in my head to want to sort of move off and start doing something else.
Oh, completely understand.
And I guess I'm a little bit kind of scared of the idea as well, because I kind of have this inkling that if I did it, it would kind of, so many people would like it that I'd end up sort of feeling that I had to write another one.
Yeah. Pressure. Just the pressure would just keep getting higher instead of getting released. Yeah. So, when you get into the midst of the books, you say you're a plantser and so on, but do you have favorite kind of character archetypes or stuff like that you use? Do you find yourself going back to kind of specific roles for different people in the stories?
I try to change the basic character arcs in every book. I don't want to kind of repeat myself too much. I mean, it's kind of impossible not to repeat yourself to some extent, but I try to keep everyone sort of fresh and different. And sometimes as I'm writing them, it's like I sometimes have dreams about my stories and dream up entire sections, or like one of the books I actually dreamed kind of like the last 25% of the book, and kind of like woke up and it's like, that's how it finishes, which is completely different to like how I'd intended it for it to finish, but it was absolutely perfect. And so, the kind of the arc is as kind of variable as the pantsing kind of the whole story. Kind of like it's going where it wants, and I'm only sort of somewhat in control.
Well, awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I mean, I discovery write most of my books, but I'm still not sure exactly what my process is going to be going forward. I'm never sure what's going to be next. But I do have, I've had vivid dreams for a long time, and they are mostly kind of scary. Go on, though.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think every author has their own process. I think this is one of the things, that a lot of people maybe don't understand. It's like, there's always this kind of like advice that you should work like this or you should work like that. You should do this. You should follow these rules. You should follow that process. And I think the truth is that we actually all kind of have to find our own process, what works for us, and I think it's always different between different writers.
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of just writers finding out what works for them. And that makes sense. It makes so much sense. It doesn't make sense to do what works for someone else if it doesn't work for you.
Absolutely,
Yeah, definitely. David, it's been a lot of fun. And tell the listeners where they can find your books, actually, because we have not talked a lot about the publishing process side of things, but we're a little low on time here, so.
Okay. You can find my books on Amazon and all online bookstores. And you can also find out more information on my website, davidmkelly.com.
All right. Thanks for being on the show, David. It's been a lot of fun. And as for this podcast, you can find more of us at mentalcellularpublications.com. You can find my books at timniederreiter.com/books. And that's Niederreiter with the I before the E. There's a lot of weird letters in that word, but it gets easier. It gets easier to spell if you have some practice. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good evening. And I'll talk to you again next week.
That tears it.